Welcome to Nevada Newsmakers. On the broadcast today, it's the state of politics with political science professors Fred Lokken and Herzik for the whole show on an all-new Nevada Newsmakers.
Hello, is this D&D Roofing?
Yes, it is. How may I help you?
You did such a great job on my roof. May I speak to the owner?
I am an owner.
Oh, can I speak to your supervisor?
Sure.
How may I help you?
I love your work. May I speak to the owner?
I am an owner. We're all owners. Well, that's why at D&D we work so hard to keep your home safe and sound.
Oh, no wonder.
D&D Roofing and Sheet Metal. Local, employee-owned, here for you.
Retail's impact on Nevada's economy? Enormous. 8,600 businesses, large and small, employing 145,000 workers. And last fiscal year, retail paid tax on nearly $60 billion in sales. We're the Retail Association of Nevada. We support retail, we help it grow, and we mean business.
RANNV.org.
Pro Group Management specializes in providing industries with the necessary components to satisfy and exceed workers' comp requirements. Every business has unique needs and specific regulations. Pro Group Management stays ahead of the curve, providing up-to-date services to keep your industry in top form. Discover how we simplify your tasks, improve efficiency, and reduce expense to keep you moving in a positive direction. Pro Group Management. Workers' comp that works for you.
Truck drivers are some of the hardest working people you'll meet, delivering over 70% of America's freight and 92% of Nevada's. When there's a natural disaster, they're delivering critical supplies to help those communities recover and rebuild. Every sector of the economy and our nation's military rely on truck drivers. So let's take a moment to say thank you. On the open road or city streets, our truck drivers are rolling to make our economy and our nation stronger. Trucking moves America forward.
This is Nevada Newsmakers with host Sam Shad, a no-holds-barred political forum. Now, from the Nevada Newsmakers broadcast headquarters, here is Sam Shad.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, we are taping this on the morning of January 8th. In case things have changed from the time you watch or listen to this program, you'll at least know the time period. Fred Lokken is here, professor of political science at Truckee Meadows Community College. Herzik is here, professor of political science at UNR. Pleasure to have you both here. So let's talk politics, but in the face of now Iran has struck back at 2 American bases in Iraq. What is the effect, in your opinion, on the election cycle?
Well, it's far enough away from the November election that there's a lot of things that are going to happen besides this, including developments in the Middle East. This looked last night like a gigantic game changer, but the maturity demonstrated by the Iranians, a very sophisticated response, really, with no casualties for Kurds, Iraqis, or Americans, much less allied forces, puts the president in a very interesting situation this morning of being able to take the off-ramp and at least allow us to de-escalate the tensions. But their professed goal now is the elimination of the United States in Middle East, and I think that's the bigger consequences. Can we stay in the Middle East?
Eric, and I have to throw in the word oil and continue the discussion from that word.
Well, I would largely agree with Fred. We got an Iranian response. It seemed to be very well calculated, and in the announcement they even reference Article 51 of the UN Charter, so that, hey, we're now kicking this up to the UN. Trump, who is actually speaking as we are recording, he's gonna say we're going to continue to put the screws to the Iranians and they have to change their behavior. The bigger question is longer term U.S. in the Middle East. Many analysts will say, oh, well, the Iranians want us out of the Middle East. And I'm like, well, that kind of makes sense. They aren't our friends. We aren't their friends. And that seems to be lost in all of this. It's all them. And they share a border with Iraq. Last time I checked, Tehran is much closer to Damascus than Washington, D.C. in terms of miles. If I'm an Iraqi, it's like, thanks, America, but we don't want to become a battleground again. And that's what, I mean, the U.S. struck in Iraq without telling Iraq. So, well, you don't matter. And Iran struck in Iraq, probably without telling them. And I'm like, guys, this is kind of madness. And Trump has said that, but then whenever he says, oh, I'm going to pull the troops out, then he does something that ratchets it up. And yeah, at base, there's a lot of interest about oil. And Trump has said that with Saudi Arabia, which gets off the hook on a lot of this. He'll say, oh, well, we have to protect their oil, and also they buy billions of dollars of arms from us. And cynically, I'll just say, just what the Middle East needs, more arms.
All right, so let's take a step back and look at the world. The world is a dangerous place. On any given day, Americans and the rest of the world are subject to natural disasters, to an asteroid hitting the planet. There are lots of evil players around the world, and the United States has to be ramped up to deal with those evil players. Our government wouldn't be doing its job in protecting us if it wasn't. So is today truly that much different from a week ago in terms of the danger to America or Americans or American interests versus what it was a week ago?
I would say it is because of the particular approach of this administration to foreign policy in the Middle East. This is one thread of like seemingly 1,000 threads that have been pulled in the Middle East in the last 2 to 3 years. You have this odd relationship with Saudi Arabia. We are now a mercenary force in Saudi Arabia, being paid by Saudi Arabia to be there. We learned a couple of months ago that the Trump administration has shared how to build a nuclear bomb with Saudi Arabia so that it can become a nuclear power. That violates all kinds of norms that have existed in a very complex world for decades. You have the recognition, unprecedented recognition of Israel, and the risk that Israel will next annex the West Bank, the only real physical solution for Palestinians in Middle East discussions for the last 50 years. You have claims of defeating ISIS, but we are out of the equation. The rise of China and Russia in the Middle East is phenomenal. And we are now completely discredited in this process. We don't even communicate with our allies when we do things in the Middle East. And all of this has put us in a very precarious position where we're no longer a trusted leader or an effective leader, and we basically are screwing up the Middle East in the process.
I would agree with particularly the last part of what Fred was saying. We do not communicate. This president, he wants to be known for unpredictability, but I'm sorry, in this dangerous world that you predicated your statement with, it's like, well, you should probably communicate with other people, particularly those who are supposedly your allies, instead of just doing things. Again, the attack, which not only killed the Iranian general, but also killed the top Iraqi counterinsurgency general. And it's like, well, we can do that because we're the United States. And that seems to be the bottom line here. I would agree with Fred in terms of fighting ISIS. Actually, the Iranians fought ISIS as strongly as the United States did. And when Trump takes this victory lap of I defeated ISIS, it's like, thank you, Russia. And basically we've turned Syria over in really to a very tight relationship with Russia. We are getting increasingly isolated. I mean, the Europeans, they don't trust us. Why? Because you don't know what this president's going to do. And you've got an ineffective Secretary of State who basically just mouths. For a guy who graduated, I think, #1 in his class from West Point, it's like, well, you've certainly learned how to take orders. And you're not representing American interests abroad, and we are becoming more isolated, and there is now a push not just from Iran, but also from Iraq, and you're going to have plenty of others in the region saying, it's time for you to go. We don't want to be your battlefield anymore.
Just one last point on this. We talk about other countries, and we talk about how they have one speech for domestic consumption and another speech for foreign consumption, and then back channels that we don't know about for perhaps decades to come. We're in an election cycle. Does this not strengthen Donald Trump's hand with his base and for others that want to see the United States as a military leader?
With a portion of that base, but that base has never approached more than about 42 to 44%, and he's hard pressed to win the next election just on that. It is also galvanizing the opposition. I mean, he's never been, 52%, 54% of the Americans have been very dissatisfied. So he may become the unifying force in the 2020 election. I don't see the Democrats as beating him right now, but he could do enough to get them organized to actually form that coalition to win the election. That could be the profound influence. This is now Donald Trump's election to lose because of the economy, but I think he's fully capable of losing this election if he continues unraveling our foreign policy, and because this is going to come back to roost in the United States. We had reports last night that Iran had counter-threatened to start attacks on the United States if this thing escalated. This is dangerous politics, and this is an administration that helped start this fire. Why did they do that? We still, as Americans, we haven't been debriefed. Parts of Congress have finally been, but this is a president that's been secretive, that exercises power in a way that we haven't seen modern presidents exercise, and it's accepted. I don't know why. We should be questioning the authority of this president and the way that he's exercised it.
Eric, the last word on this.
His base will rally no matter what. Trump has contradicted himself on what he's going to do with troops. They're out, they're in, and we're sending 3,000 more. Yes, it'll galvanize the Democrats, but they're already galvanized. I mean, the division, it's now the middle. And you're going to see, I think, and this would be political science literature, a short-term rally around the flag boost for Trump. But ultimately, unless this really goes south over the next few months, it's not going to play in the national election.
All right, let's take a break. More with our political scientists when we come back.
Tamarack Junction is South Reno's hotspot with over 450 of the latest slots and video games. Sully's Sports Bar, the Dining Car Restaurant, William Hill Sportsbook, and the Tamarack Steakhouse and Lounge. We're just north of the Summit Mall in South Virginia. Yeah.
Because of UMC, there's a wide open road ahead of me.
Because of UMC, she can grow up with her twin sister.
Because of UMC, I'm here to help you.
UMC, the highest level of care in Nevada.
Hi, I'm Eric Robnett, owner of Home Energy Experts. Has this ever happened to you?
Honey, did you remember to turn down the thermostat?
Forgetting to set the temperature? Not fun. We can help. Our new smart thermostat keeps the temperature set for your comfort all by itself.
I'm feeling hot now.
To increase your comfort, go to homeenergyexperts.com for details. That's homeenergyexperts.com.
The signs and symptoms of cataracts can start out small with subtle changes in your vision. So don't wait. Be proactive and take your vision into your own hands. If you're experiencing the onset of cataracts or just have questions, contact your eye care professional or call Eye Care Associates of Nevada today. Dr. Hiss has years of experience specializing in the surgical correction of eye disorders and has completed over 84,000 vision correcting procedures. At Eye Care Associates of Nevada, we'll change the way you look at the world.
The Tamarack Junction Steakhouse is known for signature steaks, handcrafted cocktails, and world-class wines. Join us Thursdays and Friday nights from 4:30 to 6:30 in the Steakhouse Lounge for live music, gourmet plates, and well-priced wines, just north of the Summit Mall on South Virginia.
This is Nevada Newsmakers.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, we continue our conversation with our professors of political science, Eric Herzik from UNR and Fred Lokken from TMCC. So let's talk about the Democrats. And, you know, it's fascinating to watch. You know, we always have pandering in elections, but the promises to the public of everything and all for free is astonishing to me. And who in the public would not want everything for free? But nobody is really gaining the traction you would expect them to gain at this point. What are your thoughts on where the Democrats are, and maybe address Fred's point, which at this moment is that Trump is likely winning?
Oh, I think Trump is likely winning as well. I think it's harder this time around for him because he has to put together The very thing that won him the election, even though he lost the popular vote, the Electoral College map, he has to put that together again. And that means he has to win Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. And he's polling close in those, but depends on who the Democrats nominate. And that gets to your question. Yeah, when I listen to Elizabeth Warren, it's like she's got a plan for everything. Say we're going to have free college, free health care, we're going to pay off student loans, we're going to have infrastructure, and it's all going to be financed by a tax on the extremely wealthy, of whom there are about 1,500 people. I don't think the public's necessarily buying this, and they should maybe take a look at what happened in England in the most recent election. You had the Liberal Party without any kind of coherent kind of overall theme, but a basket of, we're going to do this, this, and this for you. Do you want all these free goodies? And they said no.
Yes. Okay, Fred. So many things you opened up there.
And they also had
by the way,
a very ineffective leader.
Right. I was going to say that was the biggest point.
And the Democrats run that risk as well. I mean, plug in Bernie Sanders for Mr. Corbyn, or even Elizabeth Warren.
Yeah, our system is so broken that to begin with, that Elizabeth Warren or Bernie Sanders can even be seen as major contenders is laughable for the fall part of the election. But in primary, because that's not where the Democratic Party and where the American people are. You can take any amount of longitudinal poll data that indicates that although people want us to address health care, they realize that why do away with 160 million people that are already under health care and it's working for? So to wipe that away for the principle of single payer is insanity, and most voters recognize that. But they can push to the left because those are the only ones showing up during the primary caucus season. We have the same problem even in our regular primaries in June. The conservatives that overwhelmingly show up, or the liberals that show up for the Democrats, aren't the candidates that are being looked for in the fall election. So it's, I think, emblematic of a failure of our political process. But that aside, these things don't balance out. I mean, the math that Elizabeth Warren uses is heavily flawed. These things would greatly add to the tax. The taxes would filter down to all Americans. It would be a burden that they can't absorb at the point. We're seeing very limited commonsensical dialogue right now in the campaign. They make those promises, and then everyone says if Elizabeth Warren does well or Bernie does well, they'll move to the middle for the fall, and that's ridiculous.
The other side of this is that whether you love him or hate him, Donald Trump has moved forward with all the things he promised in his campaign. So for the people that voted for him, he is solid in terms of what he's delivered. Whether they like his attitude, his verbiage, that's irrelevant. Whereas if the candidates now start moving to the middle as they go beyond the primaries, then does that not give the Trump campaign all the ammunition it needs to go, hey, these guys are a bunch of phonies?
Well, I only halfway. Yes, the narrative is another promise delivered. I mean, the wall has been delivered, according to Trump. And it's like, no, and Mexico still hasn't sent that check. We were going to have health care that was just tremendous, great, whatever. He has nothing. He has a secret plan for after the election.
Don't we all?
Yes. Any number of other kind of promises. He's claimed victory, and his base buys it. Facts be damned. And you know, if you look at but it all comes down to, but the economy's great. It's very good, without a doubt. Manufacturing jobs, which he promised were all come back, they're down. Growth, which was going to be 4, 5, maybe 6%, almost a direct quote from him. It's going to register in at around 2s this particular year. And so Trump's great at spinning the yarn. His people will buy it. The deficit's up, even though he said by the end of his 2 terms, he will not only have balanced the budget, but paid off the debt, which yet he's adding to the debt $1 trillion a year. It makes your head spin, but the Democrats have no effective counter. And where Fred said, yes, his base is only 42%, that extremely liberal wing of the Democratic Party, the Sanders wing, that's about 1/3 of America. And last time I looked, 40% beats 30%. And then you've got people in the middle, and where Fred said you have lots of longitudinal polling, Americans aren't going to buy what the Democrats are selling.
Well, the devil is truly in the detail of his campaign promises. The tax cut has been devastating to the United States. To begin with, all of the promises of bonuses and higher wages have not materialized. The Rust Belt must feel highly betrayed because new building and a revitalized economy. If you're in Appalachia, you're still in Appalachia. It still sucks. And so he has met the devil, which is the inability to really move the needle on changing the economy in that part of the country. And he's now adding to the debt at a rate of $1 trillion a year, forecast by his own budget office for the next 10 years, which was, like you said, he was promised the direct opposite. He's going to bring us up into a range of more than 33 or $34 trillion in national debt. Unless we do something, which is basically raise taxes. But I understand in the election year they want to do another tax cut.
All right, so with all that said, I think this is a great time to take a break. And when we come back, we will discuss the digital world after this.
Dimitri Prine here for Design Outdoor. Are you a homeowner who's interested in remodeling or building a home? At Design Outdoor, we can show you how adding natural or manufactured masonry stone can add beauty and value to your home. And we refer only the best contractors. Our store and backyard are located at 11600 South Virginia, just north of DeMonte Ranch Parkway. Visit designoutdoor.com or call us at 851-9499.
Hey guys, are you watching the game at a friend's or the bar again because you can't watch at home with your wife? Or worse, because she kicked you out and kept your couch, your flat screen, and your kids? What's the one thing a man needs when he loses a good woman? A good lawyer. And when he loses a bad woman, he needs a great lawyer. What makes a good woman a bad woman? You tell me. You're the one that can't watch the game in your own home. I'm men's rights attorney Marilyn York, and I represent men in divorce, custody, and family law matters.
Hi, I'm Dave Newman. Remember me? I used to be the house detective, and now I'm a realtor full-time at RE/MAX Realty Affiliates. A lot of people ask me, how's the market? You know what? It's fantastic. If you're even kicking around the idea of buying or selling, give me a call. Let's talk about it. Call me at RE/MAX Realty Affiliates and just ask for the guy who used to be the house detective, Dave Newman.
Everyone is talking about opioids, but they're not the only drugs that can be harmful if taken in large quantities or not as prescribed. You also need to be aware of side effects from anxiety drugs, muscle relaxants, sleep aids, and stimulants. Mixing prescription drugs with other drugs or alcohol can be dangerous. If you take an Ambien with a glass of wine, it may be enough to stop you from breathing. Prescribed drugs can be just as dangerous as illegal drugs. Take medications only as directed.
This is Nevada Newsmakers.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, we continue our conversation with Fred Lokken, Professor of Political Science at Truckee Meadows Community College. Eric Herzik is Professor of Political Science at UNR. Let's talk about the digital world and how this plays into things here. Does the digital world strike more at younger people, or it seems to me that, if you're on Facebook or Instagram, you could be 70, 80 years old and being affected by what's there?
Oh, clearly. It's just reading all the predictions now as we move into the new decade, and the role of digital, it's changing humanity, basically, and so it's so pervasive. It's touching every generation and has profound impacts. And so issues of privacy and our cybersecurity are the key issues moving into the 2020s.
Eric?
It affects all age groups. It's somewhat, I won't say it's overstated because it is the dominant force, but people now can design, in a sense, their own media. And you follow sites and you follow people on the media, on social media, that reinforce your biases. And you'll believe anything, and you'll believe these pictures. The congressman from Wisconsin who has this Photoshop of Obama shaking hands with an Iranian president. And people are just willing to, in a sense, turn off their minds and just say, yeah, this is absolutely true. And if you bring up any counter data, you're a rhino or you're denying the truth, and it's a very sad time. Best way to do it, don't get on Facebook.
Have we also gotten to a point where a majority of media that people used to be able to trust has either become so politically involved themselves or cut back so much, as we've seen on the local news in lots of areas, that broadcasters no longer have a path to follow, which they used to, because they used to read the newspaper and then cover the news. That's why Facebook and other sources have taken over.
Exactly, and they don't come from the same roots as journalism did, and so it is so much easier to manipulate. I was reading an article last night that pointed out that blockchain is working with an artificial intelligence strategy that perhaps within the next 5 years will be fact-checking all data on the internet. That's a very big brothery kind of thing, but there is so much misinformation. We saw the Russians do large buys of ads and be able to tailor misinformation for the 2016 election. We haven't really been able to stop that for 2020 so far. And people see it and they believe it to be true.
Let me have it. Eric, have the last word here. We've got 15 seconds.
You get rid of professional reporters and professional newspapers, which we have done. And democracy is imperiled because you have no, in a sense, third-party group providing you news, facts, whatever.
And that's where we have to leave it. Gentlemen, kind of a scary future, but one we're all going to live through. Thank you both. We'll be right back. A bird's eye captures its surroundings at different heights. At Brian Culpa Photography, we can make your imagination soar over buildings, parks, cityscapes, and beyond. Brian's images tell the story and get the job done. If you need a new perspective to tell your story, contact Brian today. Brian Culpa Photography. Experience the bird's eye view at brianculpaphotography.com.
Kenny! Dad? What are you learning? This place is great. Huh? You gotta try this.
Wow, this stuff is great. People are gonna love it.
Yes. Yes, they will.
St. Ives Florist for every holiday and every special occasion. For romance, custom home design. We have the largest selection of fresh flowers in northern Nevada, and we also offer a large selection of unique gift items. Come see me, Lori Ann, at St. Ives Florist, 700 South Wells Avenue, or call me at 333-9190.
Take a look at Pro Group Management and see how your workers' comp requirements can be met head-on. By taking a proactive approach, Pro Group can assure that your company is meeting or exceeding state and federal standards. As you move forward in your industry, Pro Group moves with you, simplifying regulatory tasks, clearing the way so you can get the job done and look to your future success. Pro Group Management, workers' comp that works for you.
You can now watch Nevada Newsmakers on YouTube. Just go to YouTube and search for Nevada Newsmakers and become a subscriber. We'll see you on the next broadcast. Thanks for watching and listening.